Himachal Pradesh has been declared to be a fully literate state under the ULLAS program. And today we will understand what full literacy means, what is the role of adult education, and how is India progressing towards achieving universal literacy. Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nankyoliar. Let's get started. So Himachal Pradesh has been declared to be a fully literate state, and with this it becomes the fifth state or UT in the country to achieve this status. The other four being Goa, Ladakh, Mizoram and Tripura. So we see two northeastern states in the list, but unfortunately this is not a very long list. It does not have a lot of states in this because of certain nuances behind being declared fully literate. We'll talk about those in the upcoming slides. Now first let us look at the reported literacy rate for Himachal Pradesh. The reported rate was 99.3%. And with this, Himachal Pradesh became the fifth state or UT in the country to be fully literate. Now let's begin by understanding what do we mean by full literacy. So for any state to be fully literate, it must first achieve 1. Basic literacy and 2. Functional literacy. So full literacy is equal to basic literacy plus functional literacy. Basic literacy is the ability of the people to read or write simple sentences in any language, and functional literacy is the ability of the people to read, write as well as compute, that is perform basic arithmetic calculations and use all these things in their daily life also to manage the tasks effectively. So functional literacy will include financial literacy also. It will include digital literacy also, like you can write checks, you can use a smartphone, you can read the calendar. All these things will be taken care of in the functional literacy category. So for any state to be declared fully literate, the people there should have basic literacy as well as functional literacy. Now what percentage of people should have this? Here you can get easily confused because full literacy gives us a picture that 100% of the people in that state should have basic literacy plus functional literacy. But that is not the case. If 95% of the people in a state have basic literacy as well as functional literacy, then that state can be declared to be a fully literate state. That is why when we talked about the reported literacy rate for Himachal Pradesh also, it was 99.3%. and not 100%. In fact, none of these states or UTs, they have achieved a 100% mark. So they are all below 100%, because for any state to be declared fully literate, if 95% of the people have basic literacy and functional literacy, that state can be declared to be a fully literate state. Now please recall that I talked about the ULLAS program. Because Himachal Pradesh has been declared to be a fully literate state under the ULLAS program. ULLAS, which is Understanding Lifelong Learning for All in Society. This scheme specifically focuses on adult learning. That is people who are aged 15 years and above. ULLAS, it came in 2022 and the goal is to achieve 100% literacy by 2030. 100% literacy by 2030. So this is in line with SDG number 4. SDG 4 as well as our National Education Policy of 2020, and as I already told you that this focuses on adult learning, specifically on adult learning. Why is adult learning so important? Because if you talk about the normal learning or the normal literacy rate that we calculate, it is calculated for people who are 7 years and above and does not necessarily focuses on adult learning. So if you look at a scenario, let's say there's a state which has 100 people. Out of these 100 people, 80 are literate and 20 are illiterate. And let us assume that these 20 belong to the 15 plus category. Some are 30, some are 40, some are 60. They belong to the adult category. They are not normal school going kids. Now if you focus only on the literacy of 7 plus people, so we are focusing only on the new generation, the new kids that are coming in, we can keep sending them to school, and this will only be, we'll only be strengthening this will be completely missed out because we are not focusing on the 15 plus category. The complete generation is going to be missed out. We're only focusing on sending new kids, the new generation to school because our 7 plus goal is being met. But what about the 15 plus goal? What about the people who are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60? A complete generation is being left out, and we will never be able to go above 80% in the literacy rate because we are not focusing on this 20%. Until and unless this complete generation is wiped out, we will not be able to go above 80%. That is why it is so important to focus on adult learning, because a complete generation is being missed out. And that's when ULLAS came into picture, because it focuses majorly on adult learning. And Himachal Pradesh and all these other states and UTs have also been declared to be fully literate under the ULLAS program, which means the adult learning has also been accounted for. So, what does it mean to be fully literate, and how do states become fully literate? Like, what is the process or the criteria that the states follow? First and foremost, we need to identify the illiterate population. We need to identify our target audience. So the data, we are going to get that data from census of 2011, majorly from the census of 2011, as well as some other surveys also, like the National Sample Survey or the Periodic Labor Force Survey. We are going to get a list of all these illiterate people that we need to work on. Once we identify them, what do? We train them. We train them with the help of volunteers or smartphones or e-learnings. We train them. We give them basic literacy as well as functional literacy. And once we have trained them, how do we know that our training was successful? We assess them. Assessment under the ULLAS program means that these people, these newly trained people, will have to take the FLNAT, Functional Literacy and Numeracy Assessment Test. They will have to take this test, and if they pass this test, this means that we were able to educate the illiterate population. And if the threshold of 95% is crossed after all this, then we can say that state has become fully literate under the ULLAS program. So we identify, we train, we assess, and if then we see if the threshold has achieved 95%, we can declare that state to be fully literate. Now, naturally, the states who are already highly literate, who do not have a lot of illiterate population based on the census 2011 data or any of these surveys data, they will not have a lot of work to do. They will have a very small sample size, very small target audience, so they can easily achieve their goal. Versus the states who are already highly illiterate, if they have a huge population that falls under the illiterate bracket, they will have more work to do. That is why when I told you that not a lot of states have made their way to the list, it was because though they have achieved basic literacy, some have also achieved functional literacy, but many of them have not been able to achieve the adult literacy, which is very important under the ULLAS program. That is why not a lot of states were able to make their way to that fully literate list that we talked about in the starting of this video. Now let's look at the literacy situation in India, the general literacy situation in India. So the data that we follow is from the census of 2011 as well as the surveys like National Sample Survey and Periodic Labor Force Survey. And we found out that the adult learning situation in India is very grim, because the adult illiteracy in India is somewhere around 22%. The average adult literacy is somewhere around 22% as per the Periodic Labor Force Survey. And then out of this 22% also, there is a huge disparity that we see among the states. For example, it is the lowest in Mizoram, with approximately 2% of the adult people who are illiterate. This is a very small number. But then states such as Bihar, this is the highest in Bihar, with some 33% of its adult population being illiterate, which means that we have a lot of work to do in the literacy domain. That is when ULLAS comes in, and some other education schemes like the National Education Policy also comes in, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan comes in. All these things, they take care of the literacy situation in India. And the adult literacy particularly is very grim, it's very disappointing in the country right now. But with all these programs, we can hope for it to get better in the near future. That was all for today's video. I hope you understood what the situation in India looks like, particularly about the adult learning. Now let us practice a question for prelims. And before we do that, let me just quickly remind you that the Hindi Divas sale is ongoing, where you can get up to 50% off all on our online courses and a 25% off on books. But for more information, please call on this number. Now let's look at a practice question. What is the minimum literacy rate a state or UT must achieve under ULLAS to be declared fully literate? A. 90%, B. 95%, C. 98%, or D. 100%. Choose the correct option. Please provide your answers in the comment section and we will meet in our next video.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.